Here we go. We're live.
All
Ladies
right.
and gentlemen, you're welcome once again to the Kingdoms podcast. And today I have with me a very special woman. She is a symbol of Black hope, a very powerful Black woman. And her name is Nancy Korsah. And interesting, Nancy Korsah, you're the first female on the Kingdoms podcast. Thank you
Wow.
very much for coming on board today. How are you doing?
I am very good. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm honored that I'm the first woman on this podcast. How incredible. And I'm ready to go.
Okay, interesting. So, congratulations on your recently concluded Winter Wonderland experience, 2023. So, can you talk to us briefly about that?
Oh, of course. So Winter Wonderland is actually only one of our many, many events. It's our year-end event for Black business enterprises. Black Business Enterprises is my company, and we are located in 48 states in the US and 22 countries. And my sole goal is to bring Black excellence out. I want to show all of us that we are out here and we're doing an incredible thing. So, what better way to bring us than to bring us all in one room?
Wow, that is fantastic. I hope to see a lot of progress in the future, right? But then, before we delve into the things that you do, let's ask, who is Nancy Kosa? How do you see yourself? Who do you think you are?
Oh, thank you. What a great question. So, who am I? I was born and raised in Italy. My parents are from West Africa, Ghana, and I lived in Italy half of my life and moved to Minnesota. I'm sorry, America back in 2001 when 9/11 happened. And of course, moving to Minnesota, moving to America just really taught me that, wow, Black people are not treated the same everywhere. Africans are not treated the same around the world. And as a through and through immigrant, I wanted to really establish myself and really show my culture, which is the Ghanaian culture, as well as what I learned in Italy, which was the family environment, and bring it to America, which meant growing large communities of people and bringing people together. So that's who I am. I literally am community. That's the
Oh,
shortest way I
wow.
can explain who I am.
Okay, interesting. Speaking of culture, right? Nigeria and Ghana. I am Nigerian, you're Ghanaian, and you know the next question I'm about to ask, right?
Oh my
This is the
God.
age-long rivalry. So let us settle it here. Who's got the best jollof, Nigeria jollof or Ghana jollof?
Can I plead the fifth? Because
Oh, no way.
I love my Nigerian friends, and I think
uh,
you know who we have. Both of us, we have better jollof than some.
Senegal.
No, I can't say that because I have about 3,000 members there, and they would kill me.
Oh,
Let's say we have better jollof than Liberians. Can we do that?
oh wow. That sounds fair. That sounds fair. Shots fired in Liberia.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting one there, right? So, basically, can you talk us through your childhood and how you grew up, and like who were your early life influences?
Wow, my childhood. We were the only Black family in the town in Italy. I literally thought until before my parents brought us back home. I singularly thought that we were the only Black people in existence. So it was,
Wow.
yeah, it was insane. I mean, I knew my mom kept telling me, "Wow, there's Africans elsewhere, there's people elsewhere," but I never seen them. So growing up was kind of tough because we were the only Black children, and Italians were very, very rough on us. The first few years of our lives, they were very racist. They were very intense until they got to know us, and they decided that we could blend in. But then once they loved us, they were hardcore lovers of us. That's one thing about Europeans. Now, early life influences, definitely Michael Jackson.
Oh wow.
Definitely Michael Jackson. I want to say, uh, I mean, there's a few, but Michael Jackson would be number one because that's probably one of the first people that I saw that was larger than life and looked like me, and it was a big deal. I mean, he wasn't a businessman, he wasn't anything like that. Another early life influence was my father. He was badass. He went to Italy with nothing, and then next thing you know, he was working for Parliament and immigration, and he was really in charge of stamping people's visas.
Oh
But he,
wow.
he had to fight his way all the way up there. So I would say he was probably my biggest influence growing up, because he anything that was impossible he made possible, which was quite incredible to watch.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. I for one can relate. The story of an immigrant is always a very beautiful story. Going out of one place to another place where you
Yeah,
are going to build a completely new life, and especially when you start from nothing to build something,
yeah,
it's always a great story, like a zero to hero story.
yeah.
Interesting. So, can you talk about your academic background? Like, what was school like for you?
Sure. So I just have a bachelor in business, but I'll have to tell you this: I'm not a huge believer, and I know all my Nigerian friends are like the number one most educated people in the world. I love it.
Uh,
It's the truth. It's the truth. Like that's the one thing we can never debate on, because Nigerians are just highly educated. For me personally, here in America, before I even had a degree, I already had a six-figure, $250,000 job without a degree. So I try to encourage people in getting experiences and getting certifications, but that is my background. But it definitely isn't what helped me succeed here in the
no,
US.
yeah, interesting. So, really, in Nigeria, I am Nigerian, right? And I understand that growing up, they used to tell us education is the best legacy. Uh, they
Yeah.
kind of made us feel like if you're not educated, you do not have a chance at succeeding in life. I remember when I was even in university, right? One of my lecturers used to tell us, if you are highly educated, you may never be very rich, but you will never be very poor.
Wow. So
The guy was literally like, like education is like an insurance policy.
yeah,
Sort of. So in your opinion, like what level of education do you think, or like what minimal level of education do you think is required to at least, give the average individual a chance at succeeding in life?
this is the thing, right? I have a billionaire friend with a B, and he dropped out of college. Um, and he's a billionaire. I have another billionaire friend who dropped out of high school and is a billionaire. Categorically, what will bring you there is the grit and strength that you have to want to be somebody, or want to make it. As far as a level of education, like I said, I had a $200,000 plus job before I ever had my degree. I made my first million at 19 years old, before I even started college, right? So I'm not a huge believer in that, unless it's a specialty and you're a doctor, lawyer, which a lot of my Nigerian friends are, engineer, but ultimately is the belief in self and belief that you can do something greater. Um, and really, the grit is what gets you there. Of course, I recommend that everybody gets an education, because you can't be stupid, right? you have to
Exactly. Yeah.
you have to know how to read, you have to do all those things, and it is powerful to be educated, but what does school really educate us on? So that's why I said get experiences, because what I've learned in business I never learned in school. Never.
Mm.
What I learned in business, taxes, managing, taking care of employees, all of that, back shop, there's no amount of schooling that can teach you that.
Mm. Interesting, interesting. Because I remember that there's a businessman who used to tell me like you can learn being street smart, in Harvard. You can only learn being book smart in school,
Yeah,
right? You
exactly. And
can't.
then that is absolutely true. When I finally went to school, I knew more than my professor. My professor came to me to file his LLC. He came to me to teach him about business. I'm like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a business school, but you're coming to me for help. So there's those things
Oh
that
wow.
only real life can teach you, and a book could never. But don't get me wrong, lots of good information in books, but definitely try to get those experiences, and don't let a degree define you.
Interesting. Speaking of business schools, right? So our very first sponsors on this podcast is the Augment Business School, and it's an online business school that is changing the ecosystem of business education. I had the co-founders of the business school in episode 3 of the podcast, and then when they were talking about their motivation behind creating founding the business school, they said they were quite disappointed in the level of information that the tutors they had in their own business school. How they're like, oh, these guys were not even like businessmen; they were more of academics, and then
Right.
they already like had more business experience than these guys, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I think business education is actually very important, very
Yeah.
very important. But it's better
Yeah.
for it to
You
be
need to know
taught
the
by.
basics. You need to know and that's why I really admire those schools actually that can actually look at schooling a little different. Let's
Mhm,
have these students open a business in real life. Let's have I really admire those universities, those colleges that actually take a different approach. So I love to hear that. That's real fun.
yeah, interesting. So their model basically is they bring in seasoned business leaders to teach the classes. So the founder of Waze, founder of Wikipedia, founder of YouTube, uh, top executives with Meta, that's Facebook, and
Hmm.
so some of the top companies, right, are tutors on the program, and these guys know what they're talking about because they have brand businesses, and like the content seems like really rich. Yeah, so I think we should have people like you as well teaching business, teaching a business school because you are been successful, right, in running a business. And speaking of business, right, what actually led to the launch of the Black Business Enterprise?
So, oh my goodness, I started it because I wanted, just like you said, not everybody goes to school for business. So I wanted a place where people could find all answers on business, network, find each other, figure out how to bring their business to not just from a couple dollars to $1 million. We've had members that we took from poverty and now their businesses are worth $6 million. So Black Business Enterprises is a hub for all things business. You can come here and learn about something as simple as accounting for your business to how to scale your business or franchising your business. So that's why I created it. I wanted to make sure that they were things that people could find that they couldn't find anywhere else.
Okay, interesting. So, basically, looking at your profile, did you like work with like other businesses before like setting up your own? And I saw a story about you that is leaving Oz's house from cleaning to leading a global revolution in Black
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. So, can you talk to us about that?
Well, that's a big one, right? So I think I told you when I moved to America, I definitely came here with nothing, and I had to decide to. Um, I didn't even, and if I can be very candid, I wasn't even documented because 9/11 happened. So all of our paperwork was frozen in immigration for years, almost 2 years. And I decided, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make it on my own. So my mom moved to Minnesota, and I decided Minnesota was not for me. I didn't see me doing anything here. So I took a train by myself. I think I was 18, and I went down to California. And of course, I didn't plan it out. So uh, I didn't have enough money to live there. So I decided to start cleaning houses. And next thing you know, I'm cleaning Steve Harvey's house, Ozzy Osbourne, like all these celebrities that I didn't even know were celebrities. And I, by 19, had almost 30 employees cleaning houses with me. And then by 20, I think I had 700 homes. I was staffing homes with
Wow.
housekeepers, live-in nannies, you name it. And by 22, I had almost 3,000 homes and about 55 employees. And I would use incredible people, Latinos, that helped me, clean the houses so I didn't have to clean anymore. I was able to buy my house cash, and I was able to get a good lawyer to help me with my papers. Um, so that's where I started. I started by cleaning homes, and I was a teen when I started, 19. And that's why I said, you learn more in business by actually doing. Um, and that was
Exactly.
a huge learning lesson, but that showed me that business can save your life. Business can save your life, and business can help you grow up very quickly, and it can help you really find who you are. So that was
Hmm.
a that was a very interesting time of my life. That's probably when I learned the most ever doing that.
And that is really fantastic. Like, if scaling up were to be a person, I think you would be scaling up because that is classic, scaling up from, minimal operations to, expansion. That is
Yeah,
a really
and
fantastic
I gotta
story.
tell you what my edge was. You know, everybody was fascinated that I was black. You know, I was African, but I spoke Italian. Like everybody was
Oh,
fascinated by it. They were, I speak French and Spanish as well, which helped me get my employees, my Spanish employees. But everybody was just so fascinated by that fact, which gave me an advantage. So being different is actually a good thing. You know, you got to use it to your advantage sometimes.
exactly. You always have to dare to be different. And, this is succeed in business, right? People say you need a unique selling point. What would you say
Exactly.
that was your unique selling point?
My unique selling point was that plus I was so hungry and I wouldn't take no for an answer. And I was physically hungry. You know, I was like, I need to make some money. So are you gonna let me clean your house or not? It looks filthy. And I think also being very humble, because who wants to clean toilets at 19? Who wants to look out after other people's children at 19? Nobody. But just being able to be humble and understand what I needed to do in order to get to where I was, that was very, very, very important. And I'm glad that I did it. It was probably the most defining and most fun time of my life. I have to admit. It was tough, but it was the most fun because I learned that I was a boss. I was telling people twice my age what to do, and it was uh lots of mistakes because although I made my first million, I also spent it just as fast. But it definitely taught me a lot, and that I could do a lot.
Hmm, interesting, interesting. So let's tracking back to BDE, right? So what is the aim of the organization, and like what measures have you guys taken to help elevate Black-owned businesses?
I mean, of course, amongst many, we do workshops, financial literacy. So the key to having a good life is really understanding money, right? Besides God, you need to understand money. If you don't understand money, it doesn't matter how much money you ever make in your life, it's gonna pass through your pockets like it never happened, right? And that's why I was telling my story about being so young and spending $1 million in a matter of a couple of years. Financial literacy, we do credit repair classes. So we teach people how to fix their credit, or we fix it for them so that they can get a house, be able to get loans for their businesses. And we also do a youth program where we help the youth build their business. So we have small programs where they can join and actually help elevate their selves, no matter what they want to do. And we also have a program for non-business owners. Not everybody is meant to have a business. So if they can't get a business, we help them get a new job.
Hmm, interesting. So you also like help them with skill acquisition, talent empowerment, or something like that in that
Yep.
area
Yeah,
as
we
well.
have classes that they can join at any time to learn something that they don't know. We even have a professional that comes teach about taxes. We have a professional that comes and teach about accounting for their business. And please pardon my son playing the piano in the background.
That's a good background sound, anyways. Maybe some Beethoven would do. Can you talk to us about like the early struggles, starting BBE? So what were like the early challenges before you
Wow.
could scale up?
My goodness. Talking about going down memory lane, right? So when we started in 2015, nobody cared about what we were doing. We had a lot of members, a lot of people, but we didn't necessarily have the support. I think we had zero sponsors when we first started, when now we have 75, right? But nobody cared until 2020. George Floyd happened, and next thing you know, we're one of the number one organizations, not just here in town, but in many other states and countries. And people really realized that what we were doing all along is what should have been done, which was finding a place for people of color to elevate. And not just Black people, Africans, Black Americans, um, anybody Black and brown that wanted to do better for themselves. They needed to have a safe space to be able to reach their very best self. And that's when it really blew up, but we have been around for quite a while.
Oh, wow. So sometimes it seems like certain factors align in order to ensure that certain businesses that have been consistent over the years achieve some sort of meteoric growth. So I take,
Yeah.
for example, COVID-19. When COVID-19 happened, like certain businesses just scaled up all of a
Yeah.
sudden because they were able to
Yeah,
take
some businesses exploded. You're right. Some businesses absolutely exploded. And I think that was the catalyst for us finally sitting with ourselves and understanding how much power we held as Black people in this world. So I'm very glad that so many people decided to wake up.
Interesting. So, how about COVID-19? What kind of effect did it have on your on the business?
Uh, it made it 10 times better because even though COVID-19 was very unfortunate, don't get me wrong, but I think it was a perfect time for us to sit down and reflect on many things. But also there were a lot of funding opportunities for organizations of color, and we took full advantage of that. So it was actually uh, it was actually great for us. I hate to say that because so many people had so much loss, but I mean, our business grew by almost 75 times during 2020.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah,
So, you guys have been in operation for like how many years now?
2015. So about 8 years almost, just
Eight
about.
years. So looking at the trajectory, like through the 8 years, like what has the growth journey been, right? Over the 8 years, like, and the major challenges and major accomplishments, in a nutshell.
I mean, definitely just like any other business, up and down. The first 5 years were really, really rough because although we had a lot of clients and a lot, sorry, I'm gonna have to tell them to be quiet. Sorry, guys, you're in business and you have kids. Uh, but I think it was definitely up and down. We had a lot of clients, lots of members to help. However, again, not having national recognition or national support was very, very tough. The major challenge was that the biggest success was finally being recognized and being able to do a BET scale event, which was the Black Business Ball. 2020, even though it was in the thick of the pandemic, we had one of the biggest, most successful shows in Minnesota, and we were able to bring 500 entrepreneurs together, and Bobby Valentino came out. We had celebrities
Um,
do videos for us, Cedric the Entertainer. I mean, Tay Diggs. It was incredible. So that was probably the high of
wow.
yeah.
So, in terms of the highs, right? You apparently we talked about the lows, the highs, but then like what major accomplishments actually stick out for you, um, as a business and as an individual, and like what are the things like you're really proud of with the BBE journey?
I'm proud of many, many moments. I think the biggest one, of course, was to give grants to our members. So probably that's the one that I always smile about is being able to give members money to help their own business. And if it were up to me, I'll give all my members $10,000, right? So it was nice to be able to fund. I think we funded about 150 people. That was probably the biggest high I've ever had. It was just a feel good moment. Another one will probably be I think there's so many. I feel like I'm fighting for for which one should I go like.
Okay,
Uh,
in no particular order as they come through. You
my
can
goodness.
go with the
So
flow.
yeah, given the grants, we were able to build a massive directory, and then our headquarters We have a headquarters in Northeast Minneapolis downtown, and it's a beautiful space where people can come and just work on their dreams. And we were also able to start our own show on Channel 6. So that's pretty awesome. We were invited on CBS News, which is a nationally syndicated news channel, twice, and we have 75 very loyal, very well-to-do sponsors that have been absolutely incredible throughout the years.
Oh, interesting. Sounds like really, really great moments right there. So, what do you think is next for BBE?
Well, next we want to do events and gatherings around the world. So we've already started as of last year. We went to a couple places, but probably the biggest thing is being able to, do something in the UK. I can't say too much about that. Do something in
Oh,
Europe,
wow,
something.
I love for that to happen. Big ups the UK.
But we want to bring awards out there. You watch MTV Awards and BET Awards, right? I see those same shows, but for business owners. Because yeah, celebrities are great, but to me, celebrities are the small people that are making it happen, the small people that are turning something into a business. That's who I want to celebrate. That's who I care about. So it's very important to me that we continue on this trajectory and create incredible events around the world. Not just, worshiping celebrities, but really creating our own celebrities, which are people that are every day pushing to create and build wealth, not just for themselves, but for their communities, for their families. That's what really matters to me.
Yeah, celebrating the unsung heroes actually,
Yeah.
because business owners are heroes, and
Yeah.
they're everyday heroes. They do not stop on the grind, and that grind has to be appreciated. It
Yeah.
has to be appreciated, and it's great to have people like you, out there that ensure that these people are appreciated. It's somehow, when people actually do work that is essential, and they don't deserve the credit that they they don't get the credit that they deserve, right? It sort of discourages them. But then when they are seen, when they know they're acknowledged, when they know there's gratitude from the community, from the society, from the ecosystem in which they operate, it serves as fuel, right, to motivate them, to keep them going. And big ups to you and the team at BBE for the great work that you guys are doing. So
Thank you.
what would you say are your major life philosophies that have driven your growth and development?
Wow, major life philosophy. Definitely, I think um belief in self. That's gotta be number one. I realized that I did not need other people to believe in me as much as I needed to believe in me. That's the number one thing, because a lot of us sometimes look for validation in others before we want to do something or before we think something is successful. But really understanding that if you're doing something and you truly truly believe in it, you only need permission from yourself, and you need to only believe in yourself. Of course, it's important to make sure that we stay grounded and also hear the outside. But categorically, if you believe in your dream enough, I'm gonna jump on the train as well.
Hmm.
So that's probably the biggest thing I live by, and also remain humble in all things. It is very easy once your names are on newspapers and you're Googleable. Like you get so excited. It's very very important to keep a level head and understand. Remember the main mission, because the first 5 years I was incognito. I was like, I don't want anybody to know me. But then unfortunately I had to put my face to this, and that's when it really took off, because people buy you. They buy you, not your product. They buy you, not your
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly that is very true, because I've realized it even myself. Like when I'm providing a service, okay, I'm there, it's different. But then if you put another person in charge, the clients will react differently. And
yeah.
you'd be like, we're selling the same product, but then it's just that person they're buying.
Yeah,
Really,
that's part of branding, right? Branding matters. We're part of our own personal branding, so it's very important that as we're branding and although we want to stay humble, stay out of the way, you are part of your vision, and you are part of what people buy.
Hmm, interesting. Interesting. So, what are the top five most important aspects of growing a business? Top five.
Ooh, top five. Manage your money. That's number one. I don't care what business you're doing. If you don't understand money, I don't want to talk to you about business until you manage your own personal finances. Because think about it. Even if you get $1 million today, if you don't know how to manage it, you lose it.
Exactly.
Fact. This is somebody
Very
that's lived
correct.
it. This is coming from someone that's lived it. So that's
Speaking
number
from
one.
experience.
Speaking from experience. So, number one is managing personal finances. The next one would be business plan. Have a plan. There's no business that has ever succeeded without, and it doesn't even need to be a solid plan. It needs to be at least a path where you know where you're walking. You know, where's this going? Okay, you want to sell hats, but why? For what reason? How much is it going to make? What is the projection? What is your audience? So just knowing those little facts behind it is what actually helps your business succeed, so that you can actually foresee any challenges that are coming. Not, of course, there's a lot of surprises in business, but a business plan just helps you just have a guide. The next one would definitely be capital. Capital, capital, capital. Don't start your business with absolutely nothing. You'll be surprised. Family and friends don't usually support. Um, and and we can't force them to support, right? Next will be audience. Um, actually, you know what? I'll leave that last. The next one is solve an actual problem. Time and time again, I have women come to me and they want to open a boutique for clothes. Yes, women love clothes. However, why do we need another boutique? What problem are you solving? Yes, you want to clothe people back, but there's clothing everywhere. What are you specifically solving that will make me come to you versus Fashion Nova, right? And why can we do different businesses? So really doing research, and is it really a passion? Your passion won't always make you money. So how about picking a business that will actually make you money? Last is
You're lining
audience.
with my philosophy. You're lining with my
Audience,
philosophy. I
audience,
like
audience.
to. Okay, okay,
Yeah. I mean,
okay. I'll tell you that after you're done with the audience.
sure. Audience. I mean, know your audience. I had a very sweet gal open a business, and it was not for this audience. She was trying to sell to church folks something that church folks don't want anything to do with. So knowing your audience is very important. What do they want? Because ultimately, it's their pocketbooks that need to open, it's their wallets that need to open to support you. So knowing what they actually want is important. Don't underestimate your customer. If you want them to spend money, know what they want. Know what they want and solve that problem. So that's it. That's my top five.
Interesting. So I was going to say that there's some philosophy of business that I have, and I like to tell people: you don't sell what you want to sell, you sell what the market wants to buy.
Exactly.
Very, very simple, right? A lot of people want to sell a particular thing, but the truth is, do people want to buy it? If people do not want to buy it, there's no point selling it.
No,
Like
of course
a
not.
line.
Is, of course, let's say you and I are by the beach. I do my we're by the beach, and we know we're supposed to be selling towels and maybe water, because if people come out of the water, they're wet, right? So my first thought is I need to sell towels, I need to sell water, maybe food, maybe sun visor, maybe sunscreen. But if you come out there with, I don't know, you're selling shovels, okay, they can shovel the sand or snow. Like, it doesn't make sense. You want to sell snowmobiles at the beach, so make it make sense so that you can actually have success. Know the audience, and where you are, so that you can have a successful business.
Exactly. These things seem quite simple, but then I don't know. Sometimes common sense seems uncommon, and then you need to guide people in the direction of these very simple philosophies, because sometimes people do not stick to the basics and they think they need like a complicated plan. And like you said earlier about planning, right? If you actually fail to plan, right, it means you're planning to fail, basically.
Yes.
But these tricks, right, this guidelines seem really simple, but the basics work. The simple things actually do work like magic. Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. So, um, the next question here is like, what is the importance of planning and budgeting for a personal business? So there's that part of planning, but also the budgeting side as well. Like, how important would you say that is for a business, and how should people prioritize that?
Oh, how important is vital. I mean, it's absolutely vital. There's really no moving forward unless you're budgeting. The way to do that is it's really, I want to say, look at the industry you're getting into and figure out how much you need to start. Now, most people start their business and they don't have all the money needed for, to start it up. Sorry. He is sick at home, so
How are
I apologize.
you?
So I would
He's a part
say
of the podcast.
definitely make sure that you have. He always crashes something. So it's very important that you look at your industry, look at how many how you can actually even research how much money you need to start that business. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
But looking at how much you would need and having extra, and always having an investor or family member that's able to jump in if anything goes wrong, which is also hard. But if anyone is lucky enough to have that, please have a backup of some sort so that you don't lose everything.
Hmm. Interesting. So, speaking of backups, right? People like have personal businesses, and some people are full time business owners. Some people are part time business owners. For example, a person like myself, I am part time into that because I'm still a full time professional. I'm a finance guy. I'm a numbers guy. I crunch numbers for a living, right? I remember when I was going to go to uni, I wanted to study mass communication, and then my dad told me, "Come on, if you pick mass communication, like you can only pick mass communication if you know you're going to pay your school fees yourself. But if I am the one paying that school fees, come on, go study something related
That,
to
that,
finance." And then,
that is the African parent.
yeah, African parents, right? And then, my father made me study economics, and at some point, I became a chartered accountant. But when I think back, in a way, like I do not regret it, because I feel like finance is important. Like it is ultra important. Like you said, like first thing you need to understand money. You need to understand the language of money, and I think finance basically is like the money. Is the language of money. I became an economist, became a chartered accountant, and then it made me think in a structured way. And I discovered that if I were to like go into any business, like I'm usually different from the other people,
Yeah.
because you have an understanding of how money works. You understand an understanding of administration. You have an understanding of branding, of marketing, right? And also like being in corporate settings, corporate institutions helps you to think in a structured way. Now, talking about like having that fallback plan, you have a plan A, and then if you have a plan A, you should also have a plan B and plan C. But for me, my plan B and plan C is to make the plan A work.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Definitely. And I was in banking for 10 years, so I'm with you. Your dad definitely was right, because you can be an accountant and travel the world. You can be an accountant anywhere in the world. If they're needed, what makes the world go around? Money. So if you're the money
Exactly.
guy, you will always be needed. Like I've rarely heard of accountants getting laid off. So definitely the right decision there. So I'm with you.
Exactly. Right. But then, talking about like fallback plans, your business will crash, right? But then do you have like skills, competences that could make you relevant in society, right? Because you only make money is a store of value, right? And then you only exchange money by offering value to people. So people are
Yeah.
happy to give you their value if you give them value in return, right? So like what advice would you have for like young entrepreneurs who are looking into going into entrepreneurship, right? But then um should also have like a fallback plan. What advice do you have for them in that regard?
Well, first things first, they should never put all their eggs in one basket. Hear me out, right? And you know how you said your plan B and plan C is to make sure plan A works? Well, plan A better have A dash one, A dash two, like it better have a couple variations because as you know, look at when the pandemic happened, right? If you had all your eggs in one basket, well, that's it. You're sinking. But if you have a variation of businesses or your business can generate money 3 to 4 ways. Small example, right? At Black Business Enterprises, we have a virtual office where people can receive their mail, so they pay for that. We have a co-working space that they can use. Then we have a venue that they can use. Then we have the membership. So there's 4 different ways where we make revenue. So if one fails, there's three. If two fails, there's still two. So having a variation in everything that you do, so that is my one and only advice: is never put all of your eggs in one basket. Diversify and have different things that feed you. So if one fails, you're not done.
Hmm, interesting. So basically, in finance, we talk a lot about diversifying your portfolio because that
Thinking,
is usually that's usually the baseline for a smart risk assessment, right?
yeah,
You should assess your risk and also business continuity and resilience, right? Look at what happened with the pandemic, but then companies that are actually instituted a resilience plan, a business continuity plan, were able to achieve like a plug and play in that kind of a situation. I remember during the pandemic, I was actually working with PwC at the time, and then it was like we actually had a structure in place, right? Such that if there were like a disaster, if there were an act of God or anything, right, you can actually always work remotely. So when the pandemic came, it was like plug and play. We were all working from home, and it was interesting that that was a very fantastic time of my life. And I think I even achieved like a promotion as well. At that point in time in life, I was like, oh wow. But then I saw how other organizations were like struggling, right, to achieve continuity. But then it was a lesson, right? It's a lesson point for like a lot of organizations that you need to build a pathway towards ensuring that you're resilient for the future. Because if you're offering certain services, right, what measures can you put in place to ensure that these services can continue to be rendered even when there are major disruptions in the
ah,
ecosystem that
yeah.
you operate from. So I think that that's like also very essential. So what would you say is the inspiration behind your passion, for the unwavering commitment towards uniting communities? What is the inspiration?
Well, definitely, I'm inspired by people itself, right? Um, I learned so many languages because I I hated being an outcast or not feeling like I belonged. I am really moved by never having people feeling alone. And that is what drives me because remember, as a black child in Italy, it was like I was on an island by myself. But I realized that when I finally found a community or I built community, my life was a lot easier. In every country that I've ever been in, I am committed to this mission because I like to see us together. At some point, it feels like the world is against us in some ways. There's wars in many countries, and um, the countries that are not brown are always on TV. They're sending aid, they're helping. The countries where war is happening, where they look like us, they don't even show it on the news. You see, so why would we not stick together, and why would we not build community and help each other become the greatest possible unit that we could be? So I am steadfast on my commitment because I understand that, the world may not care, but we need to care about each other. And that is the mission that I'm willing to go to the grave with, because I know that it's essential for the preservation of us is to stick together. So it's okay to have jollof war. It's not okay to have other wars between us. it's uh
Yeah,
it's it's imperative. It's the only way of life that I see.
interesting. I think what you're saying actually just aligns with something I was telling a friend of mine this evening, right? So I was telling him that the greatest leaders in life are the ones that have an attitude of servitude. Because in order for you to be a great leader, you have to be a great servant. But then a lot of people have a problem with serving other people. But then I see that servitude in you. You are happy in service to humanity, and that has actually played a very great role in elevating you as a person. And of course, on a personal basis, right, I do celebrate you a lot because you've done a lot for the Black community. And, with that being said, this podcast is about sharing the stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, right? I don't know, when I reached out to you, you must have seen that, like, sharing the stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I'm really proud of, an ordinary person like yourself who's, you know, gone on to do really extraordinary things, and seeing how much you've achieved, as an award-winning entrepreneur, a mom, a philanthropist, a social influencer, a podcaster, an investor, a certified transformation coach, and an award-winning corporate professional, of global reputation, right? So, what would you say is the driving force behind all of these achievements? What is the driving force?
Whew. Well, first of all, shout out to you for doing research, because that mean you are an interviewer of all interviewers. Uh,
Oh wow! Thank you very
yeah.
much.
No, hats off to you. I might have you host my next show because
Oh,
you are brilliant. Yeah,
fantastic. But then
you.
I'm not going to take all of the glory myself because I have a team, right? Yeah, I
Of
have
course.
an executive assistant working for me in Nigeria. Her name is Ese Leose.
Shout
So
out to her.
Ese, yeah, shout out to Ese. If you're seeing this, big ups to you. You're doing a
Yeah,
great job. Yeah, and of
really
course,
brilliant.
I think she does admire you a lot because she's a very big admirer of Black women that achieve excellence. So big shout out to SA for putting this up as well.
Absolutely. Well, to answer your question, the driving force is, and I know it's going to sound very strange, but the greater good, right? As humans, I think we gravitate towards being a little selfish, especially these days where everybody is more self gratifying and it's like me, look at me, take care of me first. The world has changed, right? So my driving force is the greater good, God, of course. That's the number one, because who could wake up and do all of this all the time? um, and again, seeing people like me be very successful, it literally gives me air in my lungs, to know that, wow, another person is doing great, whoa, another person is killing it. It literally it's like the power, is the power source that I like to see, and I want to continue that. And I have to tell you this incident that happened to me when I was a executive at a bank. I was denied entry to my own building because they said that I didn't look like an executive. So they did not let me onto my floor.
No
That
way.
reminded, yes, and this was in 2015. So that reminded me that, there's many people that look like me that are denied entrance. I'm not unique. I'm not any special, and I want to eliminate that forever, once and for all, because people sometimes don't look at us like we are something, right? So that is part of my driving force, is a little bit of defiance into making sure that we are never let out of anything, any building, and that we own those buildings. But in order to do that, we need to be able to create equity and be able to create businesses that allows us to own those buildings. So that is my driving force.
Interesting. Also for me, being a black person or being a person of color, right? In the corporate world, sometimes, you know, persons like ourselves feel like, or in certain environments, it feels like we're there to fill in the quota, to probably fill in that quota of what was it called again? Like it has escaped my head. There's this quota
The status
of
quo, yeah, we
my
were just
yeah,
another.
minority, yeah, like having like minority groups,
Mhm.
participating. But
Yeah,
I like to advise people, right? Anytime you have opportunities, always ensure that you contribute optimal value. Like you're not there to complete the numbers, to make up the numbers. You're there to add value, and when you add value, you become undeniable. Because
yeah,
as a black person, you always need to work twice as hard to prove how valuable you are, right? But then it is a
yeah,
privilege as well. It is a privilege as well because when we look back into many years behind, let's say, like in the generation of our parents, they did not have the kind of opportunities that we have, right? So I think like we should also have that attitude of gratitude for
yeah,
the opportunities that we are exposed to in this age and time and make the most use of it. And so I'm proud of a person like yourself who's making a lot of use of it, optimizing these opportunities because there are also like black persons like ourselves who are exposed to great opportunities but do not utilize it. So how
yeah.
do you explain? Yeah, like what do you do about that? And they tend to complain, right? Do not complain. Like put in that work and be valuable because when you're valuable, people will never reject value.
Yeah,
True
yeah.
or false?
No, completely true. As long as you understand what value really means, because that's also changed for people these days, right? Uh, some people don't understand what it really means to bring value to something. So it's understanding what value is first, then yes. And I'm a no complaining zone. Do you know what my rule is at my company is you can't say no one taught me. We're in the age, just like you just said, our parents didn't have all these luxury. We're in the age where we can Google. Your team just Googled me and literally found out my whole life. We can find anything these days online. So
Exactly.
that when it comes to value, you have to know what value means in the first place.
Mm. Interesting. So basically, let's come back to you on a personal basis, on a personal note. So, what would you say is your typical daily routine? Like, what's your daily routine like?
Whew, well, now that it's freezing, I have a home office, so usually I have meetings from early morning. I meet with lots of sponsors, my board members. I have an incredible board of allies and supporters that really move this machine forward. Meetings with my members and business owners that are looking to scale, and meetings with strategic partners like Canva. We just landed a deal with Canva this morning. So really, really
Fantastic.
excited. Yes. So every
Wonderful
day I'm on
stuff.
a hunt for more partnership to help move people forward and help them with their business. Because the partnerships are not for me, are for the people that are within BBE that can profit or benefit from it.
Oh, wow, interesting. So what are your hobbies and interests?
Travel. I'm an absolute travel addict. Um,
We have something in common. We
man,
do have something in common.
an idea of relaxing to me is getting on a plane. And I think I was telling you before we hit record that I became a flight
Exactly.
attendant a dozen years ago, over 10 years ago, 15 now maybe, just because I wanted to travel for free. And it's I love it. I love being able to see um and connect with different people from different cultures. I want to go to countries where I don't speak the language. I love the rush of going somewhere new and be completely lost, actually, and just experiencing new foods, new atmosphere. I find it exhilarating. And the next one is I'm a workaholic. So that's actually um, part of what I like. I love what I do, so it doesn't feel like work. So um, I love, love, love working and finding new ways to elevate people.
Interested. So speaking about our mutually shared passion of traveling, right? I think right from childhood, I like, always loved geography and history. So like I always loved like the historical places, places of geographical significance. So growing up, I loved geography a lot. I really, really loved geography. I think there was some exam I was writing at some point in Nigeria, they call it JAMB. That's the Joint Admission Matriculation Board exam. I scored 88 in geography. Like I loved geography. And interestingly, there was one time I think when I was a teenager, I went to some public school and they had this abandoned library. And guess what? I took one book from the library, and that was a book of physical and human geography. Like I just made that book my own. Like I read that book with so much passion. And nowadays, when I travel, I think recently, okay, last month I was in Morocco. The month before that, I was in Belfast, right? I visited, quite a number of places with geographical significance. And, I had this nostalgia of seeing these places that I had read in that geography textbook in real life. He started hit me like, okay, uh, you
That's
actually do
awesome.
this because because of the childhood passion, right? It's
Yeah,
interesting when you bring your passion to life,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think it's sort of like a privilege because some people have that passion, but they are not privileged enough to be able to to achieve it or to make it a reality. And of
yeah,
course, for persons like you who do it for free, it tastes better. I have a friend who tells me this. He says food tastes better when it's free. And
yes,
I,
yes.
I,
Now, of course, I couldn't fly forever, right? Because it didn't. It was crazy being a flight attendant. But like you said, there's many people that are privileged enough to be able to realize their
Mhm,
dreams. But there's
mhm,
always a workaround. There's always a way. Always.
mhm.
And for me, one of those ways was being a flight attendant.
Interested, you do it on other people's money, but then you're still offering value in the process.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for me, I think like I'm very, very, very value oriented, right? If you offer value, you will get that value you're looking for. But a lot
yeah,
of people do not find ways to just try to offer that value to get the value they want in return. It doesn't necessarily have to be money, right? If
yeah.
you want something, there is always a way around it. Interesting. So, how did you achieve work-life balance? Is that a myth or a reality?
Work-life balance. Oh my goodness. I mean, ugh, today I'm working from home because my son is sick, right? He always comes first. So um I definitely try to do things that I love in between. If it's a really busy week like this week, I'm gonna sneak in a movie in the middle of it. I'm going to just step away and take a walk. So uh and especially because my work doesn't feel like work, it's very easy to blur the lines. It's very easy to forget that, well, this is work and you need to detach sometimes. So I don't know, just to be very transparent, I don't know that I found a balance. But I just prioritize a few things to make sure that I don't get lost in the sea of trying to save my world, you know. But I love this so much that it doesn't feel like work.
Interesting. So, not all superheroes are dressed in capes, and of course, you're one of those who are not dressed in a cape. And I think this is the beauty of doing something that you're really passionate about. When you're doing work that you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like you are largely engrossed in the activity of your hobby. Hmm,
Yeah.
interesting. A lot of people want to be like you. I want to be like you when I grow up. Okay, so uh, what skills, or competences are you proud of, but people do not know about? Or maybe
Oh,
not many people know about it. You're quite skilled at this, but not
oh
many
my
people know about it. I could
I
give
can
you an
sew.
example.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can give you an example. So for myself, right? I like to think I'm a really really fantastic chef. I'm a really fantastic chef.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, but I cook African food, and a lot of delicacies, Nigerian delicacies, I learned on YouTube. But then I'm just like really talented with making food, and even like making food for a large number of people. And it's interesting, like people from like different continents have tasted my food, and then they're happy, like, oh, this actually does taste good. And that gave me confidence, going for that. Okay, you are really good. But I think like some maybe 3 years ago, a lot of people did not know about it. It was just there.
Gotcha.
Like I just used to like cook with my friends, and always be a great host. But recently, like I think more people are getting to know about that aspect of being like, wow, this guy's a great chef. And some people taste the food and are like, do you have plans of opening a restaurant? So, but then what is it for you?
So for me, probably I mean I have two, right? I am very handy. I can build anything. Uh
DIY.
Master. I can, I can put up a TV on the wall. I can put up a light. I can do flooring. I can, you know, I can build anything, and I can sew, so I can make clothes. But I love building things from scratch. Definitely.
Mm, that's great. So what's the second one?
Sewing. I can sew. I can make my
Okay. Oh,
clothes. Uh,
sewing. Oh, wow.
yep, yep. So I love
Wow.
to make
Wow.
things with my hands.
Oh, wow. So I don't know, like you could pass for like a handyman, but then is there any such thing as a handy woman? So if there's any such thing, I guess you would be the handy woman.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what accomplishments, on a personal basis, would you say you're most proud of as a person?
My son, definitely. Um, he was in the podcast, so you guys already met him. uh,
Mhm.
but he's 6 years old. He's a lot of fun. He's very musical, um, very creative. I'm proud of that. That's probably my most proudest um, thing in the world. So that's it.
Hmm. That is fantastic. I might not be a parent yet, but then I see that feeling. I see it right across. I think even my own parents, like when they say they're proud of you for things that you are able to do, and then they see how much personality you have. In episode 2 of the podcast, I interviewed Rafian Stotts. He's a world champion in mixed martial arts, and then he said the same exact thing you said. He said, what he's really proud of the most as a person on a personal basis are his kids. He's got two wonderful sons, and then he talks about how much personality they've got. It keeps you going. It keeps you going. And in Nigeria, there's a name. The Igbo tribe have. They call it Onwakego. It means that child is greater than money. Yeah, so really, children are actually greater than anything material you could possibly have. A fantastic
I
one,
agree.
fantastic one. Okay, so what is next for you personally? Like, what's
Mhm.
the big things you're looking at? Not at a corporate level, but then at a personal level.
What's next? Goodness. As I said, I wanna go global. We've already done that this year, which I'm pretty proud of. We went to South Korea, Egypt, Italy, France. I would love to really have a gigantic networking event for Black people in Europe,
Hmm.
Africans in Europe, and just bring us all together to see what
UK,
we can.
please.
Yeah, what could we build? What could
UK, please.
Because think about it. I think about it. Think
For
about it.
very selfish reasons. For very selfish
Absolutely.
reasons.
But imagine
Please,
if
I
we
am
all
advocating
met.
for the UK.
But imagine if we all met right now. Like my cousin in the UK. Our home is so small. Imagine if we brought 30,000 people together, 30,000 Africans and Black people in the UK together, and we said, hey, you know what? We want to purchase this building, or we want to purchase this land all together. Everybody chip in, I don't know, £100, whatever. And you own something that's completely yours and nobody can take from you. Uh, there's I don't know why people don't do this, but we've done it here. I want to figure out a way to bring people together in a way where they feel like that's all they have, and build things together and really colonize them back. I know it sounds it sounds like war, but that is the thing, right? Because they still go to our countries and take. So if we are in their countries, we need to take a piece of whatever is there and build on it and own something. And it's very important to me. I need people to see the potential that they have in traveling and being in these spaces. We can have a lot more. So that's what's next for me. It's really uh, starting a riot, inciting a riot all over the world.
But then not a violent one, right? But then
Yeah,
a strategic one.
yeah, strategic riot all over the world where people can understand their value and understanding what they can build together.
Their strength in unity, so they say. Mm.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you could go on a coffee date with any historical figure, who would you choose and why?
Probably, ooh, Yasantua. She is a very powerful female West African warrior, Ghanaian warrior, that fought colonizers and was able to literally run them out of the country. And I'm very inspired by her because she was able to talk her tribe into fighting back. And I find that in some way is the same thing that I'm doing in a different world. And I find it very awe-inspiring. The strength and perseverance of Yasantua, powerful, powerful.
Interesting. So, what would you say people misunderstand the most about you as a person?
I don't bother myself with what people think.
Fantastic, fantastic. I love that. I love that.
So that's it.
I love that. I like to tell my friends, I'm not a people pleaser, right? I
Yeah,
like to be a kind person, not because I want people's validation, but because my conscience, my personal principle is to be a kind person, is to be a good person. So I don't want to be a good person because other people are going to validate me. But I want to be a good person because that is the right thing to do. And,
yeah,
that's fantastic. And then if people misunderstand you, sorry about that, because
yeah.
you
That wasn't the
would
intention. So sorry.
you would always make your effort to be a good person. And if there's a thin line between that and being not correctable, not teachable. But basically, it's also essential to be humble enough to take to correction, to learn from other people as well. And if you err, it's also like essential to own up to your flaws, own up to your shortcomings, and always work progressively to be a better person. Yeah, interesting. So,
Absolutely.
what have been the major highs and lows, on a personal level, right? And then, what lessons did you learn from the lows?
Ooh, a low. Wow. A low probably, oh, probably my divorce, right? That wasn't fun. Uh, Personal low. Yeah. So lesson is just speaking up and not be afraid to speak up, just talk, right? I was very passive and quiet. Um, a high man, I hate to make him the main character of this, but my son, there is something that goes into high gear when you have kids, right? It's like everything is times 10. You don't have a choice but to succeed, right?
Mm.
So that's a personal high because he drives me like he does not let me just chill for any reason.
Mm. Interesting. Wow, interesting. So, what book would you recommend to our audience and why?
Ooh, actually, I was just reading it earlier, and uh, it's an investment book. Well, it's an investment book. But besides that, actually, I would talk about a book, energy healing book, which it doesn't sound like what it is, but it's something that teaches you about being grateful, thankfulness. Because if you're always thankful for things, it actually brings good things your way, right?
Hmm.
Some people are too focused on looking at the negative that's happening in their lives, and some people see whatever they have and they're thankful for it, and they take that and make it bigger, right? If you have a thankful, grateful heart, you're actually able to multiply whatever it's around you. So that's a book that I can definitely recommend. It just teaches you to be very grateful with what you have so you can make it even bigger and better. uh, and um, and yeah, go get it. It's on Amazon.
What's the title again?
I think energy healing. Yeah, energy
Uh,
healing.
and 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 who's the author?
I'm not sure. I would have to reach for it, but I'll send it to you. I definitely
Uh,
think that one major point is just fixing your own perception, right? Like the glass is half, it's empty. No, the glass is there's a little bit still left. So just fixing that
interesting,
perspective.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm always very big, on gratitude as a person. I think I mentioned it earlier on this podcast, right? Where we're talking like an attitude of gratitude is very important. At some point, I used to tell people like an attitude of gratitude will elevate you to a higher altitude. It's just simple, but a lot of people do not realize that. Be grateful for everything you
Be
have around
grateful.
you,
Yeah,
and when you show an attitude of gratitude, it does help elevate you and change your perspective in life. Mm,
absolutely.
Fantastic one. It's great to align, philosophies. The real recognize the real, and the great recognize the great. Okay, so what is that one thing you feel Black people should invest in, and why?
So we don't seem to ever invest in franchises. Let's talk about McDonald's really quickly, right? McDonald's is in the UK, right? McDonald's is
Yes,
now in Ghana, I believe. There goes another appearance. McDonald's is in Ghana. McDonald's is in. Do you have it in Lagos
I
as
do
well?
not think so. I do not
Okay,
think so. I think
but
McDonald's
it's
is
in
in Nigeria.
Asia. It's in Asia. It's in South Africa. Franchising. We don't ever invest in franchise, and everybody's too busy opening a new business, but they're not investing in businesses that already been open for years and are very successful. So I would tell Black people to start looking there because we don't look, and it's very wrong. And the next thing is building equity. You and I love to travel, right? And I have a friend that I told her, build equity, get a home. And she said, no, I want to travel. I want to be free. And I said, yeah, but if you got a home and somebody pays you rent for that home and you're able to make a little bit more, you can invest that into your travel. Now
Exactly.
you have an investment property, so it just have equity, own something, don't just be a millennial flying all over the world with nothing to speak for, try to own something no matter how small. Have
Exactly. That's
equity.
100% correct. That's 100% correct. Yeah, I can very much relate to that. And me being a person in the corporate world, a lot of my colleagues like admire me, like, oh, you have equity in, so thing, and that actually does sponsor, some of my travels. And then you be like, oh, are we earning the same salary? I'm like, bro, we earn the same thing, but then I have something extra.
Right, they
I'm
don't
not.
understand how you're able to fly all over the world, right? Well, equity.
Yeah, that extra, when you add it to the ordinary is what makes you extraordinary. Interesting.
Exactly.
Interesting. Right.
Well
So,
done.
what would you want your legacy to be?
Oh, my legacy. Um, just recently we lost a very big community member. His name was Debonair McNeil, and when he passed, everybody kept saying, "Wow, He really, really cared about kids in the community, and he really did well. I want people to say, I really try to bring us together meaningfully, you know, because if you look at the outside world, all they see is our skin. They don't care if I'm Ghanaian and that you're Nigerian. They don't care. They don't even, they just see us as black, African, black, brown, whatever. So I hope that people realize and understand how important all of these events, all this networking, all these resources were, that they use it and they continue the impact. So my legacy should be that I brought people together and I inspire people to keep going, to continue the legacy. So not stop after I'm gone, but to continue and make it even bigger.
Interesting. So that speaks to one of my philosophies, that is, there is no success without a successor, right? So your legacy actually aligns with that. There should,
Yeah.
the people coming behind should actually succeed you, right? And of course, speaking of successors, uh, what is your advice to the young, up and coming, people in the society that want to be successful in life? What advice would you give them as a big sister, as a big auntie, as a mom,
Yeah.
as a role model, mentor, you know, everything
So
that you are?
you're probably not gonna like my advice.
Uh, the truth,
The,
they
the,
say, hurts.
yeah,
So we
you're
don't need
probably
to
not
like
gonna
it
like.
as long as it's useful, effective.
So my
Bring it on.
advice would be, my advice is, don't allow this to fully distract you from your mission. This is great. It's a great way to get people connected, but not to use this as the value, um, or follow whatever social media tells you to do. I'm realizing that the world has changed, right? But I'm realizing a lot of even great entrepreneurs, upcoming entrepreneurs that I'm watching, are very, very self-centered, very, very self-centered, and now are no longer teachable. So my advice is remain teachable. Do not allow the socials to influence you, in especially in a negative way, or tell you who you are, or make you change who you are based on fake profiles, and really live outside of social. Live real life. You don't have to capture every moment. Um, Guard your privacy and guard what you love. I don't even have a single picture of my son because that's what I love most. Therefore, you protect what you love most. So don't put everything out there. Allow for some mystery, and preserve your dignity. I'll say that again. Preserve your dignity, because a lot of influencers now are really, kind of, forgetting about that and going by all means to become famous or viral, or just preserve that and do
Very
not
sad.
take that. It's very sad. And again, just remain teachable, open, and do not live in your phone. There's a real world that needs to be that needs you. So live outside of that. Create amazing memory, learn a lot, travel a lot, love hard, and do something worthwhile. That's my advice.
Hmm, interesting, fantastic one. So, just on a lighter note, right, for what you've said, you said protect your dignity. So what advice would you now have for the people that have exhausted their dignity? When there's no dignity left, what what do you do?
If you have exhausted your dignity or lost your dignity, I think there's a redemption. There's redemption for everyone. No one can cancel you but God. Okay,
Mm,
even though a lot of people try. Um, there's redemption. Just know that. Start over, but be genuine about it. Be genuine, and remember that online is not the only world that exists. It's not real world.
mm,
Just
mm,
connect with people outside of, because you'd be surprised of how far you can get to just by meeting real people. The world's biggest billionaires millionaires, they're not online. They don't have an Instagram or Facebook.
Mhm.
So get out of there and do something else. Do something better.
Mm, exactly. Wow. So finally, on this board, right, we have a tradition wherein the previous guest leaves a question for the current guest, and the current guest leaves the question for the next guest. So, do you
Okay,
want to see the question that was left for you?
let's go.
You want to know it? Okay. So that is from Gabriel Aminu. He says, if you are granted immunity to live for 200 years, just like a vampire, what will you do to become super rich by year 100?
Oh, immunity. Super
What would you
rich.
do? Yeah, you have
Uh,
200 years to live, so you have to be rich. Come on. Or you
I mean,
guarantee 200 years. You don't want to go poor for 200 years.
no, no,
That's going to
no.
be hard knock life.
200 years of bills. My goodness. Uh, um, ooh, I would probably try to create a world that doesn't need fuel at all. So solar, everything either solar powered, everything just like Elon Musk, right? Figure out a way where I don't know, water can run cars or I don't know. It sounds wild, but electricity is one thing that we literally depend on. What charges our phones? What charges this laptop that we're using? What charges everything? We 100% depend on it. If we didn't have electricity today, we'll all be done.
Ah, that's true. That's true. So you're going to be investing in alternative energy.
Yeah, yeah. If we did, so that's what I would do because it runs the world literally. You know, behind oil, electricity runs the world.
Hmm,
So
interesting
that's what I would do.
facts. Fantastic. So, what question do you have? Would you like to leave for the next guest to answer?
Sure. So, oh, this is kind of on the spot, but I think, um, what would you do to end world hunger?
What would you do to end world hunger?
That would be my question.
They have the work cut out for them.
Yeah.
But then, at this point, I need to demonstrate an attitude of gratitude, by saying a very, very big thank you for your time on the podcast today. Your presence is not taken for granted. It is highly, highly appreciated. And of course, I
Thank
wish
you.
you the very best, for the future. God bless you, Nancy.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being on your podcast. You're an incredible interviewer, and thank you for caring enough to make ordinary people feel extraordinary.
Wow, thank you very much. It's my pleasure. We are out.